Nag-record na ko.
Okay. So, di ba kanang access to birth control, access to prenatal medicine and care. So, makita man jud ninyo sa inyong community or sa barangay no na kuan man jud kanang nadyo health centers wherein naga-cater jud og mga women na buntis, like every month is nadyo na free check-ups ang mga women. So they are giving kanang treatment wherein kuan sila monitor sila if kanang stable ba ilahang stable ba ilahang health or stable ba ang health sa baby. So also kanang ginahatagan sila medicines para sa ilahang pagbubuntis or something mga advices o kanang mga other areas na mag-benefit sa ilahang kanang pagbubuntis ba. Then access to safe childbirth methods. So women are being given an access to have a safe childbirth method wherein, di ba, nandiyan ay midwife or OB-GYN. So women are given a chance to do a natural natural na pagpapanganak, like mag-utong jud siya ba if dili na gani if kanang makita gani sa OB-GYN or sa midwife or doctor na ginakuan na murag delikado na for women and her child kay muna nandira hatagan sila time na ICS sila, like hatagan jud sila kanang access na kanang makapanganak og safe. Then also access to birth control methods. So women are given a birth control methods such as katong mga contraceptives kanang i-inject sa ilaha yung lawas, like for kanang IUD ba na IUD ang tawag, like IUD kay wherein kanang if man jud kanang if magsunod-sunod jud ang anak sa babae kay nasa tendency or naay tendency na makuha ng babae maka-cause og danger sa women. Kay as we all know that kanang ang kaning pagbuntis or pagpanganak kay delikado ba jud for women. So but also kanang makaingon sa tanan not all women's kay kanang nahatagan jud ani na birth control, especially those women's or mga nanay na makita nato sa streets ba kay nabay uban or kanang tungod jud sa kapobre, di ba nakabantay mo ang mga kanang makaingon ta na pobre jud kaayo na mga tao is sila pa na daghang anak kay it is because wala sila ikapalit sa pills, sa mga contraceptives. So munang usahay nagkuan jud ilahang kanang sunod-sunod jud ang anak nila ba. Sunod-sunod jud ang pagsigig panganak na wala sila makaka-cause na noon og grabe na poverty. So next. Next lens. So violence against women is another special area of concern wherein women are being seen as a property. Then also women are subjected to all kinds of kanang psychological and physical abuse. So as what I've heard earlier sa katong mga reports na or reporter na women kay mas prone jud sila sa violence nga gikan sa men. Like kanang every murag days na dita makatan-aw sa news na walay women na gina-abuse sa mga laki. Kanang especially kanang yung mga OFWs, mga kanang domestic helpers, like kanang i-abuse sa mga ilahang mga laki na ilahang mga laki na kanang amo, like ikuan sila, kanang iduk-duok sa bowl, like pirahong buhok. So tinuod ba ya jud na siya ay like even though makita na to usay sa TV pero tinuod jud ba ya in reality kay naa jud ana. Then also in physical abuse or psychological abuse, so it is kuan common sad kaayo like kana jong issue about kana mag-away ang manag-asawa. Like ang lalaki is ingno niya ang kana iyang wife na wa kay kapuslanan, kanang wa kay gibuhat diri sa balay, kanang wa jud kay pagkaayo na pagkaasawa. So it is traumatizing to hear baya jud ka like makuan ba jud nimo it is an abuse na bisan pag walay gilapat na sumbag or kamot sa imuha pero in the state na sakit kay ang storya kay it is an abuse na it is considered. So next. So it is important to engage in critical thinking with regards to women's issue. So also another thing to do is analyze social institutions and practices to expose violence they commit against women. So like kanang there's katong sa question how we can work towards kana emancipation of women. So kanang as daw kitang tanan dapat daw in engaging to kuan women's issue dapat kay batang mo analyze ana unsay reason ana or unsay nagapa start ana unsay nagapa trigger unsay nagapa continue ana na issue. So dapat kuan jud na nato i-point out jud na nato siya. Kay as we all know kay if kanang pasagdan raman jud nato ang mga women's issue, so magtuloy-tuloy ra jud na siya. So it is kanang important to engage in this kanang kuan daw in this thinking. So also kanang there are institution man sad na katong mga kanang feminist na nagkuan nag-expose sa mga violence, nag-study sa violence kanang against women. Also kanang there are laws na sad nag kanang gina-implies towards sa o para maprotektahan ang rights sa women. So there are laws which is kanang Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, kanang Anti-Rape Law of 1997, Anti-Violence Against Women Under Children Act of 2004. So gina-impose na po daw na for them or for the women to have confidence for them na dili sila ma-fear jud na musumbong kay if kay baw sila na naa sila'y kanang act na nagaprotect sa ilaha. So syempre mas mahatagan na sila confidence o strength na mulaban against men. Muhatagan na sila kanang strength na i-stand to ilahang rights. Then it is important to kuan jud daw kuno kanang to have a institution na naga-care sa women. Especially, makuan sa nato karon na ang DSWD is one of the kuan jud na siya naga-protect sa women sa jud kaayo. Also, there are movements such as katong Gabriela, yun na pa jud other movements na nagkuan sa about sa women's right. Then, as for instance, the institution that enshrines women's purity and honor may actually end up enslaving them by keeping them away from the public sphere. So as to those institution na nagkuan sa women's right, so it is a way daw para ma-enslave ang women. So kanang if kanang you have the movement wherein naga-fight ka sa rights sa women. So it is one of the steps daw para di na jud ma-enslave ang women. So it is important to build, as what I've said, institution that protects women. So the next one. So the adoration of women's body in fine arts could actually reinforce the continued objectification of women as decoration or objects of design. So, Marajay said earlier that kanang men are being objected to women. Kanang mas gi-objectify o gi-treat nila as object ang women wherein gihanahatagan nilang standards ang naa sila standards for women like katong flawless skin, kanang kanang round breast, kanang firm ang women. So in kani kuno women's in kanang 'di ba naghisgot man to si Joy earlier na painting about women's na kuwang na lang maghubo. So it is kuan na daw, it is prohibited na daw na inani. So in galleries sa una jud kay present jud kaayo ni like especially in Greek kanang paintings or Greek arts makita jud nimo na ang women is painted as kanang naked na jud. So for in kanang in now daw kay ginadili na daw ni kay kanang they should kanang pull out those kanang arts na nagkuan sa women na kanang kuan na kanang mga body sa women like kanang nagahubo ang women. So it should not be kuan daw, it should not be presented kay syempre right sa women ang iyahang lawas bisan pag makaingon ta na walay gina-point out dira na specific person or specific women but as long as body sa women ang gi-portray, so it is not right to do so. So also the celebration of women's virtue for care, patience, and gentleness could limit their self-realization and their choice of vocation. So, kaan daw, kanang women, kanang, kuan daw, women celebrates kanang their kuan, or kanang kitag kanang mas prone jud ta into taking care of someone or grabbing kanang patience toward others and also sa ato ang pagka-gentle. Like mo jud na murag makaingon ta na maingon ta sa tong kaugalingon na kailangan nato i-appreciate o kailangan nato i-celebrate kay we have that traits man. We have that kanang mga character na makaingon tanan nindot jud kaayo to have. So next. So appreciate those that prove to be empowering and reforms those that works against women's interests. Like I've had said earlier na kanang those institutions that helps women to have the right kay need to be kuan jud like kanang hatagan jud sila og salute kay kanang gakuan jud sila care sila on women's. So next. So it is difficult work indeed. It seems easier in the 20th century to judge how society treated their women based our standard that Western women set. So Western feminists determined that all forms of unpaid domestic work and housewifery were a form of enslavement. So kani daw kanang Western women kay have set the standard kuno or ginai sa ilaha if you are a kuan daw unpaid domestic kanang if wala kayo trabaho or naara ka sa balay, it is a form of enslave or slavery na daw sa ilaha. So kuan na daw ka ana, slave na ka para sa ilaha that they have kanang set a standard na kanang matawag jud ka na slave ka because you have no work, you have only kanang doing the chores that kanang kuan daghan jud kaayo. So it is enslaved na daw ka ana. So next. So the choice of full-time motherhood was a choice that only uneducated enslaved women would make. So wearing the burqa is a form of enslavement that only traditional women are willing to do. So as I've said earlier that ang kinaingon jud sa kanang western feminist kanang kuana, if wala kay trabaho, if naara ka sa balay, enslaved na ka. Og ang kanang pag full-time mom kay only uneducated people. Like what I've said earlier, di ba sa ubang countries is wala nila gi pa eskwela ilahang ang mga babae, it is because asawahon ra lagi nila. Like nara sa balay. So it is kuan daw na if kanang women nan nag full-time mom, wala daw na ka eskwela sa ingon pa sa western feminist. So also wearing the burqa is a kanang when we say burqa kay it is a kabantay mo sa mga Muslim or Arabic people kana 'di ba magkuan na sila mag kana purong 'di ba na may women na ang kanang ang ilang uluhan is more nakatabon, then na ilang clothes is pwede na makuan pwede ra kanang jeans. Pero if kana kunong ang burka is kana jung ang mata ra jud makita, kanang mata ra jud makita sa women. So it is kuan na daw, it is a form of enslavement na daw. Then however, non-Western dominated cultures have objective to this ethnocentric view of reality. Next lens. Wherein that next wherein some women argues that a burqa is liberating and deepens their spiritual experiences. So, 'di ba sa western feminist kay katong magsuot kag burqa kay kuan na jud siya, enslaved na ka. Pero sa ubat sad, nasa women na ni argue ani that for them wearing burqa is a sign or tradition na sa ila wherein nagakuan sa ilahang naga-depend sa ilahang spiritual kana experiences such as if mo kuan kanang calling kanang mga spirits, then mga kanang mas kuan daw liberate sa ilaha ba kay dili makita ilahang panin di sila mabastos. So it is kanang depends daw. Also, raising children is not fundamentally enslavement. It is recognized as creative work. So, 'di ba ingon man tong western feminist na kanang full-time mom kay mora jud nay kanang enslavement na siya og only uneducated people. So women kay nagkuan nakik-argue sad sila ani especially those full-time mom na ang pag-raise sa child it is not a form of enslavement. It is the most creative work that they have done. Kay di ba as we all know when you are a mom kanang kanang magtuo ka na kuan di nimo kayang buhaton is nakaya na nimo when you are a mom. 'Di ba as you observe if kanang sa inyong mga ate ba if nanamoy ate na kanang naminyo na or na mom. So makuan jud ninyo na kanang chill ra kay sila pagkadaga then pagka inahanan nila is makuan na lang ka ba ma-shock na lang ka na kaya jud nila mobuhat sa tuo nimo na dili kaya nila buhaton. So moms are a great multitasker baya jud. So ila jud nang gipaglaban na kanang it is just a creative work, not a form of enslavement. So next. So human beings must engage in a dialogue of equals where modern and economically powerful do not equate to more advanced and liberated, and traditional and non-Western do not amount to enslaved and impoverished. Then, next lens. So women and men must come together and allow the meeting of their horizon to show each other how their practices have destructive and creative potential for the liberation of women. So kani daw kanang we can answer the kuan how we can make how can we kana make towards the emancipation. So this is the answer. Women and men must come together. Like kanang allow women and men to meet their horizon or ikuan jud ilahang mga magbagat sa tunga ang mga ideas, like ang mga rights, like tanan. If naay concern ang women, if naay concern ang man, then they should meet at the horizon. Like for example in a couple scenario, husband and wife. So, 'di ba, kanang a family cannot stand kanang if ang man ray mo decide, like we can prove that we can prove that na kanang the best way is kanang naa say sad ang women. So kanang mas makuan ba yan jud ang best na choice if kanang mo counterpart o kanang suggestion ang women, also ang men, for them to evaluate kanang what is the kanang best answer or best solution sa ilahang issue. So it is important to daw. Like in our society, we should not kanang, especially men, kanang it is a reminder jud not to discriminate women. Kay as we all know, nowadays jud women can do also na sa inyong kayang buhaton. Like kanang women kanang di naman jud kanang maasi-asi ang babae karon kay they have the or we have the capability that men can do also, kanang men can do kanang mas ukuan kani mas makaingon ko na mas may mo evaluate ang mga babae, mas maayo mo value ang mga babae, mas maayo mo hatag og sympathy ang mga babae kaysa sa men. So it is important to kuan daw meet on the horizon and kanang accept na lang good na kanang in this world kanang it is kuan jud daw to have a woman. Like you cannot stand if you don't have a woman by your side or in a family if wala jud babay. Unsaon na lang babay, di ba ang babay is ilaw ng tahanan ba jud ang giingon. So it is important to meet and to have or to kuan to see women equal. Like it is important jud to see women equal and not a kuan jud, not a kanajong nabay ubang women na maselos or something basin higitan na sila sa kuan. So di daw kana di jud daw nimo kailangan kanang tan-awon ang babay as kalaban. You should see women as kanang kuan jud equal and kakampi in your life. So that's all. So the next one is kuan the roots of women's discrimination.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I assume that everyone can hear me loud and clear. So I am Luisa Miano, by the way, and I am going to continue the discussion. And I am going to tackle about the roots of women's discrimination. So, unsa day ang hinungdan nganong ang nanay discrimination against women? And then, kuan ba acceptable ba nga ma-discriminate ang women or like nakapangutana ba mo sa inyong kaugalingon na nganong man i-discriminate ang babae if we all know nga tao gyapon sila, they are still human and they also have the human rights. So in this part mahibaw-an na nato kung ngano ang mga babae na discriminate. So unsa day ang mga babae sa una and then nganong naabot sila sa point nga ma-discriminate ang babae. So why there is an oppression against women. So women should not be discriminated against. So based on their contribution to human civilization and its continuing development, misogyny and chauvinism do not make sense. So when we talk about misogyny in Filipino language, it is the pagkapuot sa mga babae. And when we talk about chauvinism, it is the aggressiveness or the aggressive patriotism. So, dili ni mo matawag jud or there is no reason to discriminate a woman. Kay we all know that in our ancestors nga women has the capability to adjust the environment, and women also have the idea, the advanced knowledge in taking care of a person, di ba? So next slide please. So in most societies, women bear the brunt of child rearing and are the first persons to introduce children into the ways of civilization. So the question here is, why do you think that women will be the first one to introduce children into the ways of civilization? It is because that women will bear the child, di ba? So ang babae is mabuntis. And then, ang lalaki din ha, if they have their husband, if dili sila widows, ang ilahang husband is mo go to the work. Ang ilahang buhaton as women, as their children nga nidako, na anay idea about sa world, sila mo help sa ilahang children to adjust. I-adjust nila ilahang self towards sa civilization nga ilahang na belong. So, muna ang power sa women. Mao po na ang na-help sa women sa human civilization. And also, they raise some women raise their children while earning a livelihood in modern and traditional societies. Women are dependent on to run a household, especially in ensuring the well-being of all from nutrition to health. So dili naman bago sa ato single moms. If single mom siya, na siya part-time, if online, pwede siya maka-work through online para mabantayan iyahang children. And there are also other moms nga mo trabaho jud in field. Like for example, sa mga businesses, moadto jud sila sa businesses to work. If they can afford to have a nanny for their children, so maka-gain sila na. Pwede sila makatrabaho sila, matarong nila og trabaho, ilahang trabahoon. And also, if some women dili ka afford og nanny, so while they are working, ilahang gibantayan ang ilahang bata. For example, sa scenario nga online working nga mom, when nag-online working siya, as um at the other hand, nagbantay po siya sa iyahang bata. So inana ka adjustable ang women. Inana ka multitasking ang women. So while nagbantay sila sa ilang baby, is nag-gain po sila og kanang mga kwarta. Like nagkuan sila og mga livelihood nila unsay buhaton para makakaon sila. And also, plus na nga maka-take care po sila sa ilahang households. Kung limpyo ba ilahang balay or dili. So next slide please. So in most developing countries, which means in most of the world, women manage family farms which produce food for the poorest people. So why some women man ang ni-manage sa ilahang family farms? It is because that women are capable to keep or to gain learning bitaw easily. They can makuha nila, ma-preserve nila ang mga traditional ways of farming because women know as women kay baluta kung unsay angay buhaton para tambok to siya nga um, plant or like vegetables and fruits baron ang gitanom sa farm. So kay baluta nga good to siya nga tanom para sa imong family and also maka benefit to ka ana, maka have ka og profit. And another thing is that women are nabita sila gitawag sila as wise wise women. Naa sila mga advanced intelligence nga sila ray nakahibalo but maka-indicate pud sila that it is good not only for their family but also sa society. So they also preserve the world's diversity against the onslaught of monoculture factory farming by working. So next slide please. So, on these small farms and keeping the traditional farming methods alive in the preservation of these methods. So, mao na to akong giingon earlier that women are capable to keep bitaw sa mga traditional farming methods. And they are also preserving low carbon, sustainable food production and processing practices because women are clearly as valuable as man. Di ba makita ninyo? Kung unsay kaya buhaton sa man, is kaya pong buhaton sa women. So na-discuss naman to ganina ni Mary Joy sa equality and discrimination. Kung unsa pud ang mabuhat sa lalaki is mabuhat pud sa babay. So the furthering of human life and civilization. So dili ni buot pasabot or wala ni nag-make og sense that ang mga babay kay ma-treat nimo lesser as human. So next slide please. So there are studies that demonstrate how women were actually dominant gender in early human history until about 1500 BC. So wherein in order po ma-thrive ni nila, people worship the source of this fertility, which was often depicted as a woman. Sa una, moto ilahangi worship ang womb. So diri na, as long as women were associated with the powers of fertility, they were revered and thought of as the superior sex. So sa una, superior sex ang tanaw sa mga babae. In different country na ni siya ha, and there were seen even cults where men wherein there was a time when human being revered the earth as a materials bearer of life, di ba? Sa kaninga sentence. So men would undergo painful genital. Next slide, please. Balik sa gamay day. So man to, di ba? I talked earlier that women ang mas dominant nga sex because they have the fertility. So naa na sila ang ilahang womb maoy gi worship. Kay why earth called as mother earth? It is because earth is the giving life, is the source of life. So mo po to ang nahitabo sa women. Next slide please. So this womb brought forth life, and the source of food for all people was dependent this fertility. So people worship the source of this fertility. So mo na to siya nga ilahan ang gi-preserve nang nahimo nga dominant or superior ang babay. It is because of the process of giving a life, di ba? So nana dito tungod sa fertility, gi-worship nanay worship sa womb. And naapoy mga country like some area in India is naagyapon to nila ang pag-worship og womb. Like kuan bitaw bato siya or caves nga mura og porma sa tiyan sa babay or kaha like sa private part sa babay didto. Next slide please. So money, men also undergo painful genital mutilations so that they could become like women. So what do you think the genital mutilations? So the genital mutilation is that if sa ato aba in vernacular mo ni gitawag na to og pagtuli. So nganong gituli ang mga lalaki? It is in order for them nga mapareha sila sa babae because they don't want nga mahimong dominant ang girls. Di sila ganahan nga second sex lang ang men. So moto, if ang babae is mag-agi og painful or like ang source of life, so why ang men dili, di ba? So moto that on about 1500 BC, there was turn when Penis worship replaced womb worship, wherein they realized that the male principle was essential to the development of life. So mo na to, nana dito makita nga ang katong womb nga worship sa babae is giilisa na sa lalaki. Kana bitang erect erected nga penis sa lalaki mo na ilahang gi-worship. And there is a country um in Bhutan, which is nga nag-worship sila og erected penis sa lalaki. It is because nga ang kana daw siya is nag-help sa ilaha para maka-gain bitaw og mga fortune, maka-give sa ilaha og mga abundant nga harvest, inana nindot nga fortune. Mo na ang ilahang paglantaw. Ana nga um symbol. And also that nakita nila that male are capable in deductive and inductive nga reasoning. So pag ang lalaki is kamaupod or masuhito sila pagbuhat og mga decisions than women. But do you think nga ang lalaki ra ang capable inani nga butang nga makahimo og mga inductive and deductive reasoning, or otherwise also that ang lalaki ra ba ang capable nga mo think about mga process, mga methods in life? 'Di ba dili? Also, ang babay is capable sila. Mas capable pa gani ang babay. So next slide please. So the reason for the oppression may be to suppress the cult of women worship. As some theorists claim, men were so jealous of their newfound status as dominant that they needed to suppress the possibility if the return of womb worship. So, diri na, ang men na is na dominant na sila, di ba? Na-oppress na to nila ang pag-worship sa mga babae. So, diri na, tungod sa nakuan sila sa ilang status nga dominant jud ang lalaki, kay without the men dili makabear og child ang women. Muna ilham pagtuo, muna ila nakaset na sa ilang mind siguro until today, di ba? So moto para ma-stop nila, ma-suppress ni nila nga basin mauli mo balik to ang pag-worship sa mga womb, nangita ang paagi ang mga lalaki para dili na tumubalik. Nana sila mga methods nga gibuhat para ma-suppress to siya kung unsa kay mga possibility. Mo to gipakita nila nga unsa sila ka dominant, unsa ilang kayang buhaton ug unsa bitaw ka taas ang kana nga sex nila. So next slide please. So diri na, ari na punta sa the Babylon in Philippine history. Siguro kaila naman mog unsa ang Babylon, no? So Babylon sa atua is also known as mga Katalunan, no? So ila nang diri pod sa Philippines napod tay history atua, in which di ba previously before to ang mga colonizers, mga invaders, women and men were treated equally, di ba? Naa pa ganito katong mga dato sa atua, and also women or mga babaylan maka-lead sila og kanang isa ka group, di ba? So women played a very prominent leadership role in prehistoric Philippine society. Along with the datu and blacksmith, they were important persons in society because only they could communicate with the spirit. So moto, so the spirits were persons from the other realms of the earth who could help with a bountiful harvest, cure sickness, or cause discomfort or death. So sila na ang magkuan ani, ang mga babaylan or kasagaran sa una sa Philippines ang mga babay. So importante or like valuable kaayo ang mababay sa atua. Next slide please. So the Babylon were women who the spirits chose to communicate with them through